We have a few. So perspective is everything. I was like, this is perfection. Creme de la creme, very good. I'm on page 43 apparently. Couldn't tell you a thing about what's actually happening in this book, so what am I even trying to say? Welcome back to another video. Today I thought I'd take you through all of the books that I want to read in 2024, and some of them will be on my physical TBR, so I have the physical books with me, if that makes sense. And then the others will be books that I've heard of or have been recommended to me that I really want to read this year, because there are some books on this list that I've been wanting to read for a really long time and I just haven't. So this is the year that I read all of the books on my TBR, or most of them, hopefully. That's the goal. We'll see how we go. Okay, we're gonna start with my physical TBR, which we have a few that we'll go over today. The first book is actually a reread, and I loved this book when I first read it, but I do feel like it was a few years ago that I read it, so I want to reread it, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. And I actually sent this to my friend for Christmas and annotated a copy for her, because I just think this book is one of those books that just sticks with you, and the meaning and the message behind the book is just so good, so that's why I want to reread it this year. I feel like it's one of those books I'll probably reread a few times in my lifetime, so that is number one. Now, this next book I've had on my TBR for years. I want to say I bought this book maybe like 5 years ago, and it's The Night Circus. And I don't even know why I bought it. I knew it was like big at the time, and I've heard really good things about it, and it's a lot of people's favorite book actually. So I really want to read it this year, because it's been sitting there for too long and it's just been taking up space. And I know I'm gonna like this book. I just haven't given it the time of day just yet. So that is also on my list. This book is similar in that it's been on my list and it's been in my possession, if you will, for around 4 or 5 years. And that is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. And this book I have started to try to read a few times, but I just feel like, full disclosure, I'm in my late 20s now, and I bought this book in my early 20s, and I just don't think I had enough life experience to really appreciate this book. And I feel like I have that now. So perspective is everything. I think now is the time that I will really be able to fathom and enjoy this book. So I also really want to read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, so that is also on my list. The next book is part of a series, and it's very popular on TikTok at the moment, and that is Magnolia Parks. And I've heard really good things about this one as well. The more I read, the more I realize that if a book is just a romance, I don't enjoy it. So if it's like a rom-com, I'm not a huge fan. Whereas if it has like a whole plot outside of the romance, then I really enjoy it. And I've heard this is like very much Gossip Girl vibes, so I feel like I'll really like it, but I do just have to give it a go. I just haven't really been in the mood. I think I've started it. Yeah, I have. Oh my gosh. I'm on page 43 apparently. Couldn't tell you a thing about what's actually happening in this book. So the next two books are from the Chestnut Springs series. I have devoured this series in the last month. So I read Flawless, which is the first book in the series. You can see it on my shelf. And I read this maybe in December last year, 2023, and I loved it. I was like, this is perfection. It's like small town romance, very spicy. Each book is like a standalone book, but it does overlap with the other books. It's based on all 4 brothers of this ranch, and it's just creme de la creme, very good. I then got the box set as a Secret Santa present for Christmas, and I was just like, I opened the box and I was like, I have no idea what this is going to be. And it was literally all 5 books. And I was just like, I'm done. I don't need anything else for Christmas. This is amazing. So I have demolished the first 3 books. And now these are the last 2 books. So we have Reckless and Hopeless. So Reckless follows Winter's storyline and Theo Silver storyline. And then Hopeless follows Bose and some other person. I don't know yet. But anyway, Bose storyline. So I'm very keen for that. I'm actually very keen for Harvey's storyline to come out, who's the dad of all 4 boys. That one's gonna hit different. I'm very keen. I reckon that one's gonna be really good. The next book on my physical TBR I actually purchased because it is by the author Holly Wainwright, and it's called The Couple Upstairs, but the reason I purchased it is because I read her other book, I Give My Marriage a Year, and I loved that book. I thought it was such a different concept, but it was so relatable, and I was like, oh, I really like her writing. It was very creative, and the way she kind of flipped back and forth between the two timelines, it was just great. So I picked this one up, and I did start it again. Lots of books I started and just haven't finished. I'm on page 17 and I just couldn't get into it, but it's small. I'm holding myself accountable because it's literally 340 pages. Like, that is nothing. Most books I read now are like 500 pages, so I really have no excuse. I'm going to read this year. It's going in the TBR pile, and by the end of this year, it's going to be out of that pile. That's what's going down. The next book on my physical TBR is another Sally Rooney book. So I've read Normal People and Conversations with Friends, and I absolutely loved her style of writing. I feel like because she writes from an internal, like almost internal monologue perspective, I found it really easy to understand her state of mind of where she was coming from with a lot of the topics that she brought up in those two books. This is another one that I've started and not finished, so I don't think I've read as much of this one. I don't even remember where I got up to, but I really didn't get that far. I think I saw a review online where they just said she just took the political viewpoints a little bit too far, but I don't know. I feel like I just have to give it a go myself and see if I like it. And considering how much I loved her other two books, like Conversations with Friends is a 5-star read for me. Normal People was a 5-star read as well. They're just classics in my opinion. So I think I will like it. I've just got to give it the time of day. This next one's actually really exciting because I went to an author meetup, like a meet and greet a couple of months ago with a friend of mine, and we picked up this book and I got it signed by the author, and that book is Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth, and it's very cute. She signed it for me. I've never read anything by her before, but my friend was super keen, so I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. Have not had a chance to give it a go yet, but it does seem very interesting. She writes about a lot of family dynamics, but then also has like a mystery element to her story, so it's like relatable, but there is something else going on in the plot that keeps you engaged. So I think I will like it. The only thing I don't love about it is how big this book is. Like, it's an A4 almost sized book, and I'm just not into that on my bookshelf. I want little books, please. The next one I'm wanting to read on my physical TBR is Lola in the Mirror by Trent Dalton. I've heard really good things about this book. Again, a friend of mine lent this to me, and I've never read anything by Trent Dalton apart from a couple of his love stories snippets from that book that he released. So I am very keen to read this one as well. We'll see how it goes. Big text. I love when a book has big text. That is one of my green flags in a book. Maybe that's just on getting older. The next book on my TBR is the last book I should say, is by an author called Jane Harper, and that's called Exiles. Now, the reason I wanted to read this one is because I have read another book by her. I read The Force of Nature, I want to say it's called. And I really liked it, and I saw the movie recently and I just thought the book was a lot better than the movie, and that's usually how it goes down. But this is her most recent release and I've heard really good things. So that's all I have to say on that. Her book, you know what? Reading and trying to explain what a book is about is one of the hardest things when you're on camera, because how many words can I use to describe a book? Anyway, it is usually in an Australian setting, and I don't know, I love Australian cinema, I love Australian TV shows, I love books set in Australia. I just feel like it feels really nostalgic to me, so I very much enjoy that in terms of her writing. But it was also a very easy read when I read The Force of Nature, so I definitely think that, I don't know, there's something about certain authors, what am I even trying to say? Certain authors are more easily digestible than others to me, and I find I'm more likely to be motivated to read a book if I gel with their writing style, and I definitely gel with hers. So I feel like this is going to be a really good one. And moving swiftly along to my non-physical TBR, what would you even call it? Like my online TBR, if you will. I'll probably end up buying these ones if I do read them, because I do like a physical book. I do have a Kindle, but I just don't really use it as much. I only really use it when I go traveling. So the first one I really want to read in 2024, and it was on my TBR for the last year, is Alone with You in the Ether by I believe it's Olivia Blake. For me not doing my research before starting a book. Yeah, Olivia Blake. I should trust myself. I've heard really good things about this book as well. Have a drink every time I say I've heard good things about a book. Good job, Kristy. Very original. I really also want to get into a lot more literary fiction this year, and I know that falls into that category. I just feel like I like it. I've got a hunch. So we're going to see how that goes. I also want to read a book called Scythe. I believe it's part of a series by Neil... what's his name? Neil Shusterman. Neil Shusterman. It's basically about the world, like a post-apocalyptic world where society has overcome death and they've overcome disease and they've overcome illness, everything like that. And basically what they have done in order to keep the population under control is they have dedicated a group of people to be known as scythes, and they're essentially the Grim Reapers of this new society. So their job is to go around and kill people whose time is up, and it's all about the moral dilemma of that, I think. So I'm very keen. It's definitely YA, so it is going to be a little bit more like dystopian vibes, but I think it's going to be a good series. I really think that's going to stick with me, so I'm keen to read that. I'm also in my Throne of Glass journey. I've already read ACOTAR. I have not read Crescent City, but I am halfway through Throne of Glass and I'm very keen. I love it. I think it's one of the best series I've ever read. I'm up to the tandem read between Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, I believe. So they are definitely on my TBR for 2024 because it's just so good. It's so good. If you haven't read Throne of Glass, what are you doing with your life? I feel like you're wasting it because it's just perfect. Following on from that, I definitely want to read the Crescent City trilogy. That's a bloody tongue twister, that one, because that comes after the Throne of Glass. Well, it doesn't come after Throne of Glass, but that's the reading order I've heard that you should do it in, and the third book has just been released literally this week, so I have no excuses. All of them are out. I have heard from a lot of people that Crescent City isn't their favourite series out of the three, but I'll still read it. I love a fantasy book, so we'll give it a go. Following on from that, I read Fourth Wing last year and I really loved it. It made me fall back in love with like YA fantasy. So I do want to read the follow-up of that book, Iron Flame, this year. I have started it, but I haven't gotten very far, if I'm very honest, because again, I've heard a lot of bad reviews and I think I keep getting in my head instead of just like forming my own opinion and reading it myself, because I've heard it's just not edited very well and it's very long and could have cut bits out and they haven't, so I will give it a go. It's on the list. The next one I really want to read is called My Dark Vanessa. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of it. It's basically just like a gothic romance and it's meant to be a very intense read. I really love reading about really taboo topics and things that are just a little bit uncommon, or like, I don't even know, things that are just out of the norm, if you will. So I think I'm really gonna like it, but we'll see how we go. Adding to the whole literary fiction theme that I'm hoping to conquer, if you will, in 2024, I really want to read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. Ottessa Moshfegh. It's meant to be really good. I don't know what more to say. I really like going into books blind and not really having a good sense of what they're about. I do the same with movies. Like, I don't like to watch movie trailers. I just want to go in and then form my opinion. If I know too much, I just get bored and then I'm less likely to read it. So the cover looks cool. I've heard good things. We're just going to give it a go. Okay, I'm going to read you the blurb of this one because I'm going to try to be a good booktuber and actually do my job properly. So, my job. Who do I think I am? I don't know. Her debut novel, Cleopatra and Frankenstein, depicts the course of a tumultuous marriage between Cleo, a young artist from the UK, wanting to extend her stay in NYC by obtaining a green card, and Frank, a much older American advertiser. I don't know, sounds cool. I've heard good things, as with all my recommendations. Another one I really want to read that has that Australian theme that I spoke about earlier is Love and Virtue by Diana Reid. I haven't read anything by Diana Reid, but every time I pick up one of her books, I think I want to read this because the plots always seem so fun and interesting and different, but they always seem to have a bit of a twist. So it's definitely on my list. It was on my list last year, but it is on my list again this year, and it's going to happen this year. Following on from that, I really want to read A Little Life this year. And I know it's such a heavy book. I actually saw the screenplay that was adapted to the cinema. I saw that this year and it was a very, very long movie, and I didn't actually know what it was about going into the movie, but it was just the most heartbreaking, I don't know, the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've had a few friends that have read it and they've all said it's just something else. So that is on the list. The last book that I really, really want to read this year is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Again, this is a classic and I feel like I just need to read it. I need to say that I've read it, and classics are classics for a reason. So I think I'll like it. And I've actually never seen the movie either. Everyone says the movie is quite good too, but is there a movie? I'm sure there's a movie. There is a movie. I knew there was, and it has that guy in it. Benny Barnes? Not Benny Barnes. What's his name? Not the 1945 one. Ben Barnes. Yes, I remember now. So yeah, I have heard that's good, but I want to read the book because I'm definitely the type of person who prefers to read a book before I see the movie. If I've seen the movie, I'm not going to go back and read the book. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, that one is the last book on my 2024 TBR. I feel like this year is going to be a really good year of reading, and I really want to branch out in terms of the types of books that I read. I've fallen into the trap before of only reading books that were hyped on like TikTok or BookTube, or, you know, the really popular books that come out, and I sometimes get to the end of them and I just go, I just need more. I just need something that's a bit more like hard hitting. I think this year I'm definitely going to branch out a bit more into things like literary fiction and just more classics, and maybe just different types of fantasy as well, because I really do enjoy fantasy. It's just the ones that are churned out super quick, I just can't grip. I don't know. My camera literally overheated because it's so hot in Queensland right now. So I was literally finishing off by saying that I am very excited to read different genres this year and really step out of my comfort zone. If you guys have any recommendations for me in the literary fiction, or I don't know, any recommendations that you think I might like based on the books that I want to read this year, please drop them below in the comments, and make sure you subscribe and like my video to let me know that you enjoyed it, because your girl is very new on YouTube and we are trying our best, and it is always awkward getting in front of a camera, but I'm really enjoying the love so far. So if you do like it, please let me know. If you want to see something else from me, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Have a good day, guys. Bye!